Hello and welcome once again to the video. In this one I thought I would do one that I haven't done for a while, which is a video on an F1 circuit. I think I've only done two before actually. I did Catalunya, the Catalunya circuit to Barcelona, and also Monaco. This time I'm going to do Imola, or to be exact, the Autodromo Internazionale Enzo e Dino Ferrari. Autodromo Internazionale Enzo e Dino Ferrari circuit, which basically means the Enzo and Dino Ferrari circuit, the International Ferrari circuit. Dino being Enzo Ferrari's son. People tend to shorten it and just call it Imola, the Imola circuit. In the Emilia Romagna region of Italy, which is why since 2020 it's been called the Emilia Romagna Grand Prix. Prior to that, the Grand Prix was called the San Marino Grand Prix. Well, actually, it was called the Italian Grand Prix in 1980. That was when it first started. Anyway, I'll mention that again in a minute. But first of all, I just wanted to say what I'm going to do in the video, basically. As I did in the previous two videos, I'm just going to draw a very basic outline of the circuit and then just chat about some of the events that have happened at the circuit, the corners, how they've changed, that sort of thing. Just very basic history, but as usual with me, nothing too technical, nothing too over the top. But yes, so it's Imola, isn't it? Imola, and I'm just going to write, shall I write it here? Yeah, I might as well. I don't want to take up too much space. The Autodromo there's a Z there, isn't there? Internazionale, it's in Italian, you see, understandably. Enzo E Dino. I've done capitals there for some reason. No, I haven't. Sorry. Ferrari circuit. Now, of course, in England, you know, we write the wrong way round, shall we say. So this is sort of backwards. So that's International Circuit of Enzo and Dino Ferrari. I think how they would say it maybe is the Enzo and Dino Ferrari International Circuit. There you go, Imola, where they hold the, as I say, the Emilia Romagna Grand Prix. Now, in 1980, it started in 1980. Actually, I'll draw the circuit. Shall I draw the circuit first before I talk about anything else? Yes, let's do the circuit so I know exactly where to go. Now, this is going to be very basic. I need to put Ravazza down here somewhere. Over here, so let's just go with... that might be a bit too... I think I've gone wrong straight away. I think I've just done that a little bit too high. So, let's just say... now, maybe I should go over that with pen, would you say? I think I'm going to go over that with pen first. Sorry to those that don't like... no, I'll leave it like that. I'll leave it like that. Some people don't like the pen. I mean, some like it, some don't like it, so it's difficult to know what to do, really. But I'm going to draw with the pencil, so that's why I wrote that in pencil. Okay, so I'm going to start a little bit further down here. Draw faint. I always tell my kids, draw faint, draw faint. then you can easily rub out. So it goes up here, doesn't it? And then it goes up to Variante Alta. I'm actually drawing it clockwise, but the actual race is anti-clockwise. One of the few in history that have been anti-clockwise. But I'm actually drawing it clockwise. Acqua Minerale, which has been changed over the years, comes around here, goes up to Piratella. Again, I'm doing all this in reverse. And over to, am I going to get Tosa in? Am I going to get Tosa in? Apologies. Oh, I think I'm supposed to go sort of up a little bit there, aren't I? Yeah, I'm supposed to go up a little bit. So let's just rub that out a little bit. So I'm supposed to go just up. Yes, and then to Tosa. Back down. It'd be a bit of a disaster if we were driving this direction in the race. Let's come down here. I like to think it's in focus. I know I've done it very faint at the moment. The Variante Villeneuve. Which has been changed since 1994. Roland Ratzenberger was there. Ayrton Senna was here. Right, so let's just do the little in and out. So it goes around here, and then it sort of comes along here, and then it sort of goes up a little bit towards the start-finish line, and then back down. This is to, yeah, see, I need to straighten this up a little bit. I think that's not too bad. Now I can just sort of fill it in a little bit. Yeah, so the circuit became, I've done a few, most of the information I know already, everything since 1980 basically, but I didn't know that it was opened as a circuit in 1953. I think originally it was just called Circuit Imola. But then in 1980, for whatever reason, Monza did not hold the Italian Grand Prix. It's the only year that Monza has not held the Italian Grand Prix. I think, yeah, this bend's a little bit aggressive, isn't it? I've done that a little bit. No, it doesn't matter. Let's just go for it. 1980 was the only year that Monza didn't hold. So therefore, Imola was called in. It had been used for some non-championship races, which I didn't know. In 1963, Jim Clark in his Lotus won a non-championship race there, and there was another one in 1979, which was won by Niki Lauda in his Brabham. Some rare success for Niki Lauda in his Brabham. Yes, its first actual Grand Prix was 1980, the Italian Grand Prix, the only time that Imola has been given the title, the Italian Grand Prix, won by Nelson Piquet in his Brabham. It was such a success that they decided to have another race the following year in 1981. have it permanently on the circuit. But what did they call it is the thing. You couldn't have 2 Grand Prix with the same title. Which is why in the early 80s you had things like the US Grand Prix, and then the USA Grand Prix, the USA West Grand Prix, and the USA East Grand Prix. I think that was in 1983. So they decided to name it after the nearby Principality of San Marino. Imola was not in San Marino, but it was nearby to San Marino. And back then, they wouldn't have called a Grand Prix by an area or a region like they do now, or a city like Miami, for instance, and indeed Emilia Romagna. So back then, Las Vegas as well, of course. Back then they weren't doing that. The Grand Prix had to be named after countries. At worst, a principality. So they called it the San Marino Grand Prix, even though it wasn't in San Marino. When it came back in 2020, during the pandemic, I didn't realise it, but the circuit had been trying to get back onto the Formula One circuit ever since it came off the Formula One circuit. It came off the Formula One circuit due to safety concerns. Despite the changes that had been made after 1994, it was considered still a little bit too dangerous. So it came, it's been trying to get back onto the circuit all that time. It thought it had an agreement for 2007, and then that fell through. Eventually, thanks to the pandemic, with Monza not taking part, it was allowed to come in. No, there was a Monza Grand Prix in 2020, wasn't there? Yeah, I'm pretty sure there was. Otherwise, it would have been called the Italian Grand Prix, wouldn't it? So it was, but this time it was allowed to name itself after where it actually was. So instead of being called the San Marino Grand Prix, it was called the Emilia Romagna Grand Prix, which is a bit of a mouthful. It makes sense, more so than San Marino, I realise that, but I do miss San Marino. I mean, I grew up with the San Marino Grand Prix. It was always round 2 of the championship after Brazil. Throughout the 80s, Brazil, and then San Marino, and then Monaco. And it was like that for many years. And it was also the first race that we saw, you could see the whole race. Because back then it was only really the European Grand Prix that certainly I, in England, could see live. The other races were highlights. So, for instance, the Brazilian Grand Prix would often be just 35-minute highlights at about 11 o'clock at night. And it's because of that I grew an interest in the US Masters golf tournament. Because in 1987, when I was 16... I stayed up in order to watch the highlights of the 87 Brazilian Grand Prix, the first race of the season. Super excited I was. But there was a playoff in the Golf Masters between Larry Mize, Greg Norman and Seve Ballesteros. And so I was forced to watch about an hour and a half of this playoff before the highlights program came on. I am going to name the corners, by the way, in a moment and talk about them. But obviously at the moment I'm talking about golf, and why not? I'm not interested in golf at all, apart from the US Masters, which I like to watch each year. Apart from that, no interest in golf at all. And it's because of being forced to watch it in 1987, as I waited for the highlights program to come on. So getting back to Imola, it was always the first race that you could actually see the whole race live. Because of that, it's very exciting. I used to tape the races on VHS cassette and then watch them loads and loads. Anyway, and the circuit hasn't changed that much. Up here you've got Pirotella, which hasn't changed that much compared to what it was. Aqua Minerale down here. Now that has changed, but what they did is they got rid of a chicane. There was a bit of a sharp chicane, and they got rid of that because of the potential damage to cars. Same thing with Variante Alta. They improved that chicane as well because it was quite an aggressive chicane. It's got big runoff areas there now as well. Rivazza, that's pretty much unchanged. As is to a certain extent Tosa down here. Now, interestingly, Variante Bassa is very similar to what it was originally on the original circuit up until 1980. But after post-1980, all the way up to 2006, there was a chicane that was put in here, and I remember that chicane. I have a vivid image of seeing Prost, who I imagined winning every single San Marino Grand Prix that there was. He only won 3, but it felt like he won a lot more than 3. And the image of him coming around the little box chicane thing here, where you'd come in like that, and then you'd come back out again, and then you'd be in down there to the start-finish line, which was actually the start-finish line was about here, wasn't it? Or has it been changed? It's been moved now, I think. Was it over here originally? Yeah. Anyway, just before the start-finish line was this little chicane. I've got a little picture of a previous map here. Let me have a look. Yeah, okay, they changed it there. They changed the start-finish line, that's why. Yeah, I was thinking that I was getting a little bit confused at the little chicane, but they've changed the start-finish line. See, now the start-finish line is sort of over here, but it used to be over here, and there was a little box chicane up until 2006. Now, Variante Bassa is where Barrichello had his big smash. I forgot what corner it was until I looked it up. But in 1994, in practice, Friday practice, Variante, and when Barrichello, I'm sure you've all seen it, where he takes off and sort of seems to fly horizontally through the air, not turning over. Flies horizontally through the air and then smashes into the Armco barrier. Whew. That was on the Friday of the fateful weekend. So they changed. I miss the little box chicane thing that used to sort of come up there and come down here and come over there and that sort of thing. I miss that from Variante Bassa, but and they didn't change that for the I don't know why they changed it, because they didn't change it after 1994. They changed it after 2006 basically, or 2008 maybe. So they didn't change it because of Barrichello. Now, one that they did change intentionally was, of course, this one over here, which is the Variante Villeneuve. Now, this is where Roland Ratzenberger had his big accident. Before, it was just a straight blast, a slight curve. It would come down here, Tamburello would go up there, and then straight through down to Tosa, and that's where he had his big head-on collision. Died instantly on the Saturday qualifying in 1994. Roland Ratzenberger, the Austrian. So they understandably changed that after 94, as they did Tamburello. Now, looking at the accident that Senna had, to me, it didn't look anywhere near as serious as the one 5 years earlier that Gerhard Berger had, where he had front wing failure at Tamburello. And he just, from what I remember, he just went straight on. In the same way that Senna did, although Berger's was a little bit earlier in the corner, I think. And the thing with Berger's car is that it burst into flames. And it was a towering wreck. that sounds right. I was about to say Towering Inferno, but it's not. It was an Inferno, but it wasn't towering at all. Yeah, it was just, it was terrible. I instantly thought that Berger had died. It's just a big ball of flame. It's terrible. But he only missed one race. He had burns on his hands, and he missed one race, Monaco, and then he was back for Mexico. It would have been round 4. That's incredible. It's just luck. It's just total luck, isn't it? Because that accident looked far worse because it had a fire involved. But a lot of it is just complete luck. I mean, Senna really only died because a wheel strut came through his visor. You know, it's just bad luck. But that's just the way it is. That's motor racing, unfortunately. They know the risks. So there you go. But anyway, Berger's one looked far more serious. But anyway, so they changed that as well, because that was a big swoop around here, Tamburello, and then slightly in, and then another sweep round Variante Villeneuve down towards Tosa. So what famous races have we had? And let's just write up here, opened 1953, and then 1980, Italian Grand Prix. 1963, non-championship race. Shall I write that in there? Might as well. Just my pencil. A bit more. 1963, non-championship. Won by Jim Clark. In, of course, is Lotus, because he won all 25 of his races in a Lotus. And then 1979, again, and that was run by Niki Lauda, wasn't it? So 1980, and then 1980 onwards, 1981 to all the way up to 2006. It was the San Marino Grand Prix. There you go. And then ever since that moment, they've been trying to get back into Formula One, trying so hard to get back into Formula One. And then eventually in 2020, it comes back as the, let's put it in an arrow because that's continuous, as the Emilia, Romagna Hotel Grand Prix. And it makes sense, but it's just difficult to drop the San Marino for me. Now, standout races. Of course, it's 1994. Stands out for all the wrong reasons. JJ Leto had that big accident as well at the start in 94, didn't he, in his Benetton, which ended his career. And brought Jos Verstappen in. Jos Verstappen came in after San Marino because of JJ Leto's... Was it Pedro Lamy that drove into the back of Leto, or was it Leto that drove into the back of Pedro Lamy? One of them stalled, and the other one drove into them. And Leto, that was the end of his career. I don't think he raced again. So they brought in a replacement, and it was Jos Verstappen. But he picked up 2 third places that year. Schumacher won the title with 9 wins, but Jos Verstappen picked up 2 third places, and he was quite a fiery driver as well. He didn't pull any punches. Fast, but a bit erratic, and was obviously not in the same league as Schumacher, but it was Verstappen's rookie year as well, so you have to forgive Verstappen a little bit there. So, standout races for me. Another big accident at the Tamburello was, of course, 1987. Nelson Piquet had tyre failure 1987. So I'm going to write down the three big ones I tend to think of, which are 1987, the big accidents, 1987, Piquet. Now, some say that damaged his championship charge that year. He still won the championship, but that he won the championship because Mansell had tons of bad luck. But it may well have also been because Piquet was damaged. Apparently, he had long-lasting injury, spinal injury, I think, throughout the year. I don't know to what extent that hampered his performance, because Mansell did beat him the previous year in '86 as well. But he certainly beat him by more in '87. Mansell was comfortably quicker than Piquet in '87. So that may well have, that drop in performance by Piquet might have been down to his accident at this track in round 2. But he still won the championship because Mansell only finished about, well, he won 6 races to Piquet's 3, but I think he only actually finished 9 races out of the 16, Mansell. And I think all of them were on the podium. So he just had so much bad luck, Mansell, that year. So Berger and, of course, 1994, Senna. The 3 particularly big ones. Alboreto did have a big accident there in testing in 1991, and Patrese had a big accident there in testing in 1992 in his Williams. Alboreto was in a footwork. Oh, that was a terrible car. And Patrese was in Williams. But anyway, everyone remembers, all Ferrari fans, there's 2 big races that Ferrari fans will always remember, and that's one of them is 1982. Pironi v Villeneuve. I think Villeneuve was on pole, Pironi was second. They were mates, okay, they were pals. They used to go on holiday together, do things together. They were chums. Don't think I might not need that red pen. They were matey, chummy pals. And but that all changed. Villeneuve saw Pironi as being, gradually started to see Pironi as being untrustworthy. Pironi was out to win the championship, and I think in Pironi's eyes, we're not friends on the track, friends off the track, on the track, we're enemies. Okay, we're trying to do each other over in a safe way. Whereas Villeneuve tended to think that maybe he was a bit more naive, I guess, and Gilles Villeneuve believed that they could be pally on the track as well. And they were told to slow down to conserve their tyres, I believe, and about 10 laps before the end of the race, they were told to slow. So Villeneuve and Pironi slowed, and Villeneuve thought that meant, obviously, we will hold position. Obviously, my great mate, Didier Pironi, will not try and overtake me. 2 Ferrari teammates, remember, if I didn't point that out. Both Ferraris, 2 Ferraris. So Pironi was told, they were told to slow down to conserve their cars. Retirements happened all the time back then. So they did slow down, and then on the last lap, Pironi decided to suddenly speed up and overtook Villeneuve. And Villeneuve couldn't get back past on that last lap. Pironi won the race. Villeneuve was utterly distraught after that, because he felt totally and utterly betrayed. Whether or not he was, it's down to your personal opinion. I mean, Pironi just said, well, look, I saw the opportunity to win. We weren't actually told to not fight. We were just told to slow down, that's all. So he just decided to speed up on the last lap. And you could argue, why not? They don't need to conserve their car there so much. And as I say, Pironi always used to say, look, I'm out to win the championship. Yes, he's a friend of mine, but I'm still going to try and beat him in any way I can that in his mind is fair. And Pironi always thought, look, we were not told we couldn't actually fight. We were just told to slow down. Anyway, 2 weeks later, at Zolder for the Belgian Grand Prix, Villeneuve was so fired up by his rage over Pironi that he overstepped it a little bit in qualifying, trying desperately to get pole position off Pironi. Went a little bit too fast into one of the corners and had a big accident. He flew out of the car. You actually see on the footage, you actually see Villeneuve fly across the tracks outside of the car. And that was the end of Jules Villeneuve. He died in that qualifying session. Anyway, that was in part, we don't know to what extent, maybe he would have had the accident anyway, but he was definitely fired up and trying to beat Pironi on pole. And he got all heated up and fired up because of the events of the 1982 San Marino Grand Prix just 2 weeks earlier. The other big memorable race, a little bit more cheerful, is the 1990 race with the Mansell 360 degree spin. Now, Mansell's Ferrari that year was incredibly unreliable, as Mansell's cars often were. Incredibly unreliable, and Prost wasn't, not as unreliable, which is why Prost was able to chase for the championship. I know what you're going to say. You're going to say Mansell was harder on his car, but apparently he wasn't. From what I've heard from people sort of in the know at the time in the paddock, he wasn't aggressive. He just had a lot of bad luck. Eventually in 1992 he didn't. Mansell was third place in the early stages of the race, just behind Berger in his McLaren, and I think it was, who was leading? Was it Boutsen that was actually leading the race? Or was it Patrese that was leading the race? I think it was Boutsen maybe that was leading. I'm going from memory there. Anyway, it's not important. Whoever that was, if it was Boutsen in his Williams possibly, retired. That left Berger in the lead. And Mansell was all over him. This is about, I don't know, halfway through the race. Mansell was all over him, and then I forget I'm not sure what corner it was that they were going through, I'm afraid. But he went to overtake Berger around the outside. Berger, he's a nice chap. He wouldn't have done it deliberately, but he moved out wide. Supposedly he didn't think that Mansell was going to go that way. He thought Mansell was going to go up the inside. It's a shame he didn't now. But Mansell was committed around the outside. So Berger, unintentionally, I believe, pushed him off the track. Mansell hits the grass, spins, comes back onto the track, does a 360 degree spin in his Ferrari at about 150 miles an hour, and then manages to control it so that he's still pointing in the same direction that he's supposed to go, basically. Not clockwise, anti-clockwise. And he manages to control it and continues. And the Ferrari fans already were calling him Il Leone, the lion, but now that was sort of cemented in ink, that nickname for Mansell. That move, Ferrari fans love that move and remember that move and like looking at that move. To me, it was torturous because he could have gone up the inside. I was a massive Mansell fan, and I was mortified because then shortly afterwards, a few laps later, he retired, and it wasn't because of usual gearbox problems or anything. It was because of dirt picked up from the grass when he went off. So who knows, maybe he would have gone on to win that race and actually would not have had one of his normal mechanical failures and would have actually won the race. We just don't know. But it was exciting to watch that little event, but a bit devastating because he didn't win the race. I think Patrese won that race in a Williams. I think. Again, from what I from what I remember. Right, so lastly, let me just... Have I just left off anything? Because I did do a few little notes here. I'll just write down who's had the most wins, shall I? Where shall I write that down here, maybe? Wins. In first place is Schumacher. I thought it'd be Prost. I was a bit surprised. I looked this up. Next is Senna and Prost. Let me just check, did I write that down correctly? Yeah, so Senna and Prost. Both with 3. And then out front for the teams, Williams with 8. Along with Ferrari with 8. And in the third spot, McLaren with 6. So there you have it, and there it is. Just a little bit of chit-chat about the circuit. I have lots of memories of this race, and yet I didn't actually watch the 82 one because I didn't start following Formula One avidly from every race until the Monaco Grand Prix of 82, which was the race after the Belgian Grand Prix where Villeneuve died. So I just missed Gilles Villeneuve racing because I didn't start properly following. I did watch the odd race beforehand, but it was only like the 1981 British Grand Prix I remember watching. And probably the 1980 British Grand Prix, you know. It was just the British Grand Prix each year. It was from 82 Monaco onwards, it was every race, and that was the race after Villeneuve's death. So I didn't get to consistently watch Villeneuve in action. I, of course, forgot to mention 1983, which I've just written down there. The Patrick Tambay win. One of only 2 races he won. That's notable for a number of reasons. Number one, it was the last time that Enzo Ferrari saw one of his cars win a Grand Prix in person. The next win on Italian soil was at Monza in 1988, but that was just shortly after Enzo had died. And the next Ferrari win at Imola was in 1999 with Michael Schumacher. So this was the last time that Enzo Ferrari saw a Ferrari win in person. Also, Tambay was Villeneuve's replacement after Villeneuve's tragic accident, and he dedicated this win to Villeneuve. Tambay's teammate was Arnoux, who had qualified on pole and finished 3rd in this race, just behind Prost. And Arnoux was the replacement for Pironi, because just 3 months after Villeneuve's fatal accident, Pironi had a career-ending accident at the German Grand Prix in qualifying. And that stopped Pironi. He was on his way to winning the championship. He was leading the championship, just a few rounds left. It looked like Pironi was the red-hot favourite for the championship. And he had this big accident, and in the end he lost the championship by just 5 points to Keke Rosberg, Nico's father. So yeah, that's quite something. So that win, and another interesting thing, just to show how devoted to the team Ferrari fans are. With 6 laps to go in 1983, I remember this. I don't remember it at the time, but I've seen the race since, and I think that's where I remember it from. Riccardo Patrese overtook Tambay for the lead in his, would have been in Brabham, wouldn't it, in 1983, Riccardo Patrese. And he was heading off to victory, Patrese, in 83, and then he crashed at Acqua Minerali. And the Tifosi, the Ferrari fans, cheered because an Italian in a non-Italian car had crashed out, allowing a Frenchman in an Italian car to win the race. They're the only fans in the world that cheer on the team more so than the driver. They were cheering on the French driver after the Italian driver crashed. But there you go, it's quite interesting. So there you are. Just a little brief look there. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. If you'd like to subscribe, please do so. If you'd like to leave a comment or like the video, please do so. I welcome all comments, and I try to reply to all of them. If you'd like to leave a tip, you can do on the thanks button below the video. But I will see you, hopefully, on the very next video. Whatever it may be about. Goodbye, and thank you for now.